Salutations everyone, this is Razor giving you guys the rundown of the 1.5 patch for Overwatch, which of course has introduced Sombra, which will have another video going in extensively on the character. I'm sure she'll forever change the meta and is quite good. But we have a new map, an Echo Point Antarctica, which we are playing here on the new 1v1 game mode, which is part of the arcade. It's got 1v1s, 3v3s. You get special rewards for winning certain ones, as well as you get rewards for every like third win and then your 10th win. So it's a nice way to get additional loot boxes, play different things. There'll be different kinds of brawl modes in there as well. But much more prescient matters. Let's go to the balance changes of the game. So in general, dealing damage to things other than players, like Torbjorn's turret or Symmetra's teleporter, no longer charges ultimate abilities. Don't think that'll have a huge impact on the game. What will have a ginormous impact on the game is that ultimate costs have been increased by 25% for all heroes. So Blizzard saw that there's a little bit more ult usage than they were going for, so they decided 25% more charge across the board for all characters. Now this will of course maybe affect some characters more than others, depending on how good their ult is or how often that they get it. So let's go on with Ana. Not only does she also have the increased ult cost like everybody else, but the nano boost no longer increases move speed. So no longer is the Reinhardt-Ana combo going to be god tier end all be all. If you don't do this, you aren't winning competitive or MLG kind of a thing. So that's a balance that they felt like they had to strike. D.Va, her ultimate cost for call mech, not for her nerf this, but for her call mech has been decreased by 20%. So she's going to be out of the mech for about the same amount of time. This is basically to counterbalance the global 25% increase in ultimate costs. So not really a change there. But we did get the continuation from the PTR of her mech health increase was increased by 100%. So now she has 200 health and armor at 400. So she's going to be a bit more tankier, and she's going to be a little bit less vulnerable when she's firing because her movement speed while firing has been increased by 25%. So she'll be able to withstand more attacks as well as keep the pressure on her enemies. I'm sure we'll be seeing no drop in D.Va usage. Lucio is getting a nerf. His amp it up healing per second has been decreased by 10%. Of course, Lucio is always a mandatory pick, so they decided to make his healing a little less powerful and maybe change things up. But, you know, he's an AoE healer and a very slippery one at that, so they decided to have him heal not as much because he's always been on par or higher than what other healers can do. Mei's Blizzard ultimate cost has been increased by 15%, so this means in comparison to what we saw, you know, a couple days ago or last week whenever you played the game, Mei will now get her ultimate 40% less of the time. There's the global 25%, and she's also getting a specific 15%, because we all knew after the Blizzard buff, Mei ults every 4 seconds. It was ridiculous. People would, if you were playing quick play, which thankfully now has the one hero restriction, everyone all switched to Mei's, and they would ult and stop you from getting the objective, and that was really annoying. So this was a much needed nerf, and they have instituted as such. Mercy is getting a tiny bit of a buff. Her passive health regeneration now activates when Mercy avoids taking damage for 1 second instead of 3 seconds. So it allows her to survive more easily by evading enemy fire. Pharah is going to be getting all of the changes that she had in the PTR that we discussed in the last video. Her minimum explosion damage has been increased by 13% and has decreased the knockback to 0%. So no longer will her rocket launcher do knockback, but it will do 13% more minimum damage, and jump jets lift increase by 35%, so she no longer has to land. Soldier 76 is getting his buff slash nerf, and that his bullet damage has been increased from 17 to 20, but the bullet spread has been increased from 2.2 to 2.4. So you'll have to do more burst firing for Soldier 76 at medium and long ranges, but you will do more damage with it. Torbjorn is also getting a change. Scrap is now automatically generated over time, as we've seen in the PTR recently. The amount of scrap collected from enemies has decreased by 40%. So this kind of is a buff and a nerf. It's a buff in the fact that you'll be able to generate armor packs when your team isn't doing so well, because you're always generating armor packs, but no longer will your team just be inundated with armor to make things really, really difficult for the enemy team. So now, instead of doing really well when your team is doing really well, he'll be and doing very badly when your team is doing very badly. He's going to be more middle of the road in his amount of scrap that he will generate. His Forge Hammer swing increased by 25% and damage increased by 25%, so you'll be able to build your turrets faster, and if you're using it for melee, do a wee bit more damage as well, which makes perfect sense. Widowmaker is getting a bit of a buff. Her Venomine explosion will no longer do damage to the player that placed the mine, so that's kind of a nice, it rarely happened, but it does happen. And Widow's Kiss charge rate has been increased by 20%. Feel like any buffs to Widowmaker will definitely help make her more flexible and reactive. And finally, Zarya got the nerf to her particle barrier. Her power gained from barriers has decreased by 20%, and her power gained from barriers projected has also been decreased by 20%. So the must-pick characters of Lucio and Zarya have been getting a bit of a nerf. The 1v1 mode is pretty fun, as we saw here. I took that 5-3. The 3v3, some people are saying the balance is a little off. Just pick tanks and you'll do just fine, especially if the other team doesn't pick tanks. But everyone's going to have all kinds of fun, and everyone's going to get more loot boxes. And Sombra's here, and Echo Point, Antarctica. So lots of cool, awesome, free stuff. Good on you, Blizzard, especially with those balances.